Cowboys Nation, all eyes are on the ongoing contract saga involving Micah Parsons, one of the brightest stars in the NFL and a cornerstone for the Dallas Cowboys defense. As the team prepares to report for training camp in late July, the buzz surrounding Parsons' deal continues to build, yet the contract remains unsigned. Officially, the Cowboys report on July 20th, with the first practice scheduled for July 22nd, but a lot is still uncertain when it comes to Parsons' participation. Will he be a full participant from day one, or will he be limited as negotiations linger? That question hangs over the team's off-season preparations, like a shadow distracting from what should be a singular focus on football. Still, despite the uncertainty, Parsons himself has shown remarkable composure and patience throughout the process, conveying a calm confidence that a deal will indeed be reached. The consensus among insiders and fans alike is not if, but when. That when remains the hot topic of conversation among Cowboys faithful, as well as NFL observers everywhere. At a recent ceremony where Parsons High School retired his jersey, he spoke candidly about the state of his contract talks and the upcoming camp. Rather than expressing frustration or impatience, he emphasized a mindset rooted in patience and professionalism. He said he is trying to do things the right way and is letting the process unfold naturally, accepting that certain outcomes are beyond his control. It's a mature perspective, especially for someone so young but already carrying the immense weight of being one of the highest-profile edge rushers in the league. Parsons understands that negotiations, particularly for record-setting contracts, are complex and often protracted. There's no shortcut or magic formula that will make the deal happen overnight. He acknowledged that despite the public speculation, these things take time and all parties involved have to be on the same page before putting pen to paper. What's particularly fascinating about this situation is that everyone involved clearly understands the stakes and the numbers at play. Parsons' contract isn't going to be just another deal. It's expected to shatter records for edge rushers and set a new benchmark for the position across the NFL. His agent, the Cowboys front office, and Micah himself all know the scale and magnitude of what's being negotiated. So why hasn't it been finalized? That's the question frustrating fans and analysts alike. It's not a matter of if, but why this is dragging out as training camp approaches. It's a constant topic on social media, in locker rooms, and among pundits who wonder why the Cowboys aren't moving faster to secure their star pass rusher. The holdup feels unnecessary given the clear mutual interest. This contract will be historic, and yet the delay keeps creating a cloud of uncertainty over the team's preparations. As the calendar ticks closer to the start of camp, the debate intensifies. Will Parsons get paid before the team convenes? This isn't a trivial question. Getting the deal done before training camp can eliminate distractions, ensure full participation, and allow the team to focus on football rather than contract drama. For a player of Parsons' caliber, someone already producing at a Hall of Fame trajectory in terms of sack numbers, having the financial security and official status of a new deal is critical. Yet here we are with the clock winding down and the contract still hanging in limbo. Fans are invited to weigh in on whether they think the Cowboys will pay Parsons before camp starts, fueling the conversation and speculation even more. Parsons' comments also revealed that he's unfazed by the contracts other elite edge rushers are signing around the league. He specifically mentioned players like Myles Garrett and T.J. Watt, who have recently secured massive extensions that have reset the market for defensive ends and linebackers who specialize in pass rushing. According to Parsons, these other deals don't impact his negotiations because every situation is unique. He highlighted the fact that different players come from different backgrounds, have varied injury histories, and that contract timing often depends on individual circumstances. While that might be true to a degree, it's a common refrain agents use to keep leverage in negotiations. But the reality is that the salary cap and the market set by previous deals inevitably influence what a player expects and demands. Contracts don't exist in a vacuum, and even the most confident athletes know that. Parsons also touched on the changes in the salary cap itself, noting that the cap has risen roughly 18% in the current year, though that figure is a bit inflated, and how those increases affect contract values. Essentially, if a player signs a huge deal one year, the next player in line should expect a comparable raise based on the salary cap growth. That's why the Cowboys would prefer to get Parsons signed now rather than waiting until the following offseason to avoid paying a premium on top of the expected raise. The rising cap creates a natural pressure to strike deals sooner rather than later if teams want to control costs. Still, with the market continuing to evolve, negotiations become a delicate dance. between players seeking maximum value and teams trying to manage their payroll strategically. Parsons' agent-like language during interviews makes it clear he's well-advised and understands the business side of football deeply, but it also means the Cowboys front office has to navigate carefully to get the deal done, without overpaying relative to the current market. The salary cap is rising steadily, yes, but the league and teams also want to avoid unsustainable spending. It's a balancing act. For the Cowboys, locking in Parsons' contract now is essential, not only to secure a key defensive player, but also to maintain roster stability. The impact on team morale and focus cannot be underestimated. Having one of the most dominant pass rushers in the league locked into a long-term deal would send a strong message to the rest of the squad. The front office is committed to winning now and investing in its stars. Beyond Parsons, the Cowboys have other important contract decisions looming. Defensive end Tyler Smith, who has been performing at a high level, is expected to command a significant extension in the near future. There's also DaRon Bland, a talented cornerback whose situation is more complicated. Bland isn't part of the same player agency group as Parsons and Smith, which could make negotiations either easier or more challenging depending on the dynamics between agents and the Cowboys management. Bland is coming off an injury and a less impressive season, which might lower his bargaining power compared to other corners like Sauce Gardner or Derek Stingley Jr., who recently secured mega deals, setting a high bar for the position. With Bland's contract talks less straightforward, the Cowboys must weigh his value carefully against their salary cap and roster needs. The projected franchise tag for cornerbacks next season is already set at over $21 million, which essentially sets a floor for what Bland can expect in any new deal or on the open market. That figure places him in the second or third tier of NFL corners behind players like Gardner, Stingley, and J.C. Horn. That tiering affects contract negotiations significantly, as the Cowboys will have to decide how much they are willing to pay Bland relative to his current and potential contributions. Meanwhile, they also face decisions about several other players due for new contracts or free agency, including George Pickens and Brandon Aubrey, both of whom have ties to the same agency group as Smith. These overlapping negotiations will require the Cowboys to prioritize and strategize carefully in order to keep their roster competitive without breaking the bank. The salary cap environment is increasingly complex, and the Cowboys' ability to manage it effectively could determine how successful they are in the coming seasons. The balance between rewarding top performers with record-breaking contracts and maintaining enough flexibility to build a deep, talented roster is always tricky. But if there's one thing certain, it's that Micah Parsons is the centerpiece of Dallas' defensive plans. His contract situation will likely set the tone for the rest of the team's negotiations, and how quickly and cleanly it resolves will have ripple effects across the organization. In the end, Parsons continues to show maturity and poise amid all the noise. His awareness of the salary cap market dynamics and his own value reflect a new generation of NFL players who are savvy about the business side of football. This isn't just about raw talent or on-field production anymore. It's about understanding how contracts work, how timing affects earnings, and how the market sets standards for what a player deserves. Parsons seems ready to get his deal done, but only when the numbers and conditions feel right for him and the Cowboys. Until then, the waiting game continues, with fans eagerly watching every update, hoping to see their star edge rusher officially signed and ready to dominate the upcoming season. Moving beyond Micah Parsons, the Dallas Cowboys face a series of critical contract situations that could define their roster for years to come. One of the most intriguing and complex cases is DaRon Bland, a cornerback who has shown flashes of elite ability but has also faced setbacks that complicate his negotiations. Bland's situation doesn't carry the same clear-cut urgency or record-setting expectations as Parsons, but it's no less important for the team's future defensive structure. The Cowboys need their secondary to be strong and consistent, and Bland, despite his recent injury struggles and uneven performances, remains a key piece. The challenge lies in finding the right balance between reward and risk, a contract that recognizes his talent while accounting for the bumps in his career trajectory. Recently, the NFL cornerback market has seen some jaw-dropping deals, with players like Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley Jr. commanding massive extensions that have reshaped the valuation for top corners. Sauce Gardner's deal in particular stands out not only for its size, but also because it was agreed upon relatively early, setting a new benchmark in the league. This has forced teams to reassess how much they're willing to pay for lockdown corners. DaRon Bland, coming off a less consistent season and recovering from injury, finds himself in a more precarious position. He doesn't quite fit in the elite tier established by Gardner or Stingley, but he's certainly a valuable asset. His contract negotiations will need to reflect this middle ground. A deal that rewards his skills, but doesn't overreach given the current market and his recent form. One critical factor in Bland's contract talks is that he is not represented by the same agency as Parsons and Tyler Smith, which could work to the Cowboys' advantage. The complicated relationships between player agencies and team management often influence how negotiations unfold. When multiple top players are represented by the same agency, deals can become intertwined, creating challenges for front offices trying to manage the salary cap and roster at the same time. With Bland outside that grouping, the Cowboys might face less internal pressure or potential conflicts. Still, every negotiation brings its own hurdles, and with Bland's contract needing to balance past injuries and his overall value, there's no simple path forward. The franchise tag for cornerbacks is another crucial piece of the puzzle. The projected tag amount for the upcoming season sits north of $21 million, which effectively sets a baseline for what Bland can expect, whether in a long-term contract or on the open market. This figure places him below the very top tier, but still within a group that commands significant salaries. For the Cowboys, the decision will come down to whether they want to invest that level of money long-term or risk tagging him year while managing cap space elsewhere. It's a delicate balance that many teams face, especially as the salary cap continues its steady upward climb. Beyond Bland, the Cowboys have other players whose contracts demand attention. Tyler Smith, a promising young defensive end, is expected to be next in line for a significant extension. His performance has been strong enough to warrant serious consideration, and locking him in could help solidify the defensive line for years. Meanwhile, Brandon Aubrey and George Pickens, both of whom share agent connections with Smith, are also approaching free agency or new deals. This cluster of contracts creates a web of timing and financial considerations that the Cowboys must navigate carefully. They will need to prioritize which deals to finalize first and determine how to allocate resources efficiently to build a competitive and balanced roster. The front office's approach to these negotiations will be critical. Acting with urgency and proactivity could save the team money in the long run, preventing bidding wars and escalating salaries. However, rushing deals without proper evaluation risks overpaying for talent or locking into unfavorable terms. The Cowboys must find that sweet spot where they can reward key players fairly while maintaining the flexibility to sign other contributors and improve depth across the board. This strategic juggling act will play a major role in shaping the team's competitive window in the coming seasons. From a broader perspective, the evolving nature of NFL contracts and the salary cap influences everything. The league's salary cap has generally increased each year, allowing teams to spend more on player salaries, but also raising expectations for top-tier players. Deals that might have been considered enormous just a few years ago are becoming more common, reflecting the growing revenue and financial health of the league. Players and agents are acutely aware of this trend and often use it as leverage in negotiations, emphasizing how rising caps translate to higher market values for elite talent. Teams must respond accordingly, balancing the desire to secure their stars with the need to manage payroll sustainability. Micah Parsons' contract situation encapsulates many of these dynamics perfectly. As a player who is already performing at a Hall of Fame level, he naturally commands a premium. Yet his youth, the rising salary cap, and the precedent set by recent deals create a complex backdrop for negotiations. The Cowboys want to avoid paying a premium next offseason, when cap increases might push his salary even higher, so signing him now makes sense financially. But until all parties fully align on terms, the deal remains pending. This standoff creates distractions that can affect team chemistry and preparation. But Parsons' calm attitude helps mitigate some of that turbulence. His understanding of the process and refusal to get rattled is a testament to his professionalism and maturity. As training camp approaches, the pressure mounts on the Cowboys to finalize these key contracts. The team's success depends on having its stars in place mentally and physically prepared to perform at their peak. Off-season distractions, especially contract holdouts or rumors, can derail focus and cohesion. While Parsons remains a steady voice of reason, the front office must match that steadiness with decisive action. Locking in deals like Parsons and Smith's would clear the way for a smoother camp and a stronger team dynamic. At the same time, the Cowboys must be mindful of their long-term roster construction. Signing multiple players to lucrative deals simultaneously risks inflating the payroll and limiting flexibility in future seasons. Smart management involves forecasting not just the immediate season, but the next several years, anticipating salary cap fluctuations, draft needs, and potential free agency moves. Balancing short-term success with long-term sustainability is one of the toughest challenges NFL teams face, and the Cowboys are no exception. Their handling of these contracts will reveal a lot about the front office's strategic vision and operational acumen. Fan engagement also remains high around these contract stories. Cowboys supporters are passionate and informed, following every update closely. They understand that keeping players like Parsons and Bland in Dallas is essential to building a championship contender. Social media and fan forums buzz with predictions, opinions, and debates about how the team should manage these deals. This adds another layer of pressure on the organization to get things right, not just financially, but in terms of public relations and maintaining trust with their fan base. Meanwhile, players on the roster are watching these negotiations carefully. Contracts signal how much the team values its stars, impacting morale and motivation. When key players feel valued and secure, it often translates into better performance on the field. Conversely, prolonged holdouts or uncertainty can breed resentment or distraction. The Cowboys' ability to communicate openly and manage expectations internally will be crucial as these deals unfold. In addition to the major names, there are younger players like Jake Ferguson, who will soon face their own contract decisions. Ferguson's progression at tight end has caught the attention of coaches and analysts, and his upcoming negotiations will add another piece to the puzzle. Not all contracts will reach the dizzying heights of Parsons or Smith, but every deal impacts the team's financial landscape and roster stability. The interplay between these various contracts, salary cap management, and team goals creates a fascinating chess match behind the scenes. It's a complex world where player performance, agent negotiations, market trends, and front office strategy collide. For the Cowboys, navigating this terrain successfully could mean the difference between another playoff run and a Super Bowl contender, or falling short of expectations. Despite the challenges and complexities, the one constant is that the Cowboys are building around a core group of young, talented players. Securing those players with fair and timely contracts is vital to sustaining their competitive edge. Micah Parsons stands as the flagship example of this group. A player with elite talent, a growing reputation, and the potential to define the franchise's future. How the Cowboys handle his contract and those of his teammates will resonate throughout the NFL landscape. The coming weeks promise to be pivotal. With training camp on the horizon, the pressure to finalize contracts will only increase. Fans, analysts, and insiders alike will be watching closely, hoping to see the Cowboys clear these hurdles and enter the season fully prepared. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the spotlight remains squarely on Dallas as they navigate these critical negotiations. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Whispers around the league suggest a potentially game-changing move for the Dallas Cowboys, as murmurs grow louder that the franchise may be closing in on signing former Miami Dolphins nose tackle RAYQUAN Davis. While nothing has been officially confirmed, insiders and eagle-eyed analysts have noted increasing signals that Davis could soon be suiting up in navy and silver. If the rumors prove true, it would mark a significant shift in Dallas' defensive philosophy and a clear commitment to reinforcing the trenches.